Hello friends, very good. Let's see if Unreal Engine 5.4 is ready to be able to create a 3D model from scratch and take it to the end. Here we have already installed Unreal Engine 5.4 in its previous version, and we have here a model that is still in the production process, but it can serve as an example and see if Unreal Engine can really take you from the beginning to the end of the creation of a model. Let's start with the first part of the modeling. In modeling software such as Maya and Blender are used in large quantities. In the case of Maya, it is the industry standard, and it is also the price standard. Let's see the price here. Blender is free and also has a powerful part dedicated to modeling. Let's see if Unreal Engine can cope with all this. Here we have the modeling section, and if Unreal Engine 5.3 and 5.4 especially already has a very well organized modeling section where we can create here, notice many elements. These sections have already been covered in previous chapters on this channel. You can review it as well. Let's see, here we have to create models, polygroups, deform them, even make a remesh or change the number of polygons, simplify them, and many options that can be developed. These models have been developed only with the Unreal Engine. So let's say that yes, it does have the modeling part. And every time it is advancing and it is getting better every time. The next part of the process of creating a 3D model would be the sculpting part, when we want to give those additional details. And yes, in this case Zbrush is the king, we can call it that, and they also consider it that way. With its number of brushes as we can see here and its great power to be able to handle millions of polygons. Let's see if Unreal Engine has something like this, and I can cope with it. To deal with this entire part of the sculpting, here in the deform part, which is within modeling, it has the vertex sculpt and dynamic sculpt. It has two. The most used in this case is vertex sculpt, where you have several brushes here. Notice that we have also covered it on our channel in Spanish. Soon we will also be including this channel. Here are the brushes and their variants. These combinations can give us multiple uses. It also has the peculiarity of being able to use alpha, and here by changing the alpha you can even do very interesting things. If it has a sculpting part for what environment artist is, it works very well for us. Possibly for character development it requires more practice and more artists to use it so they can give feedback. As for what dynamic sculpt is, it has that part where the topology changes on the fly. It is still in development as we can see here, so the sculpted part does have it. It is not at the level of Zbrush, but it can handle up to 5 or 6 million polygons without any difficulty on a mid-range card. After having made our high poly model, our sculpting, we have to transfer it to a low poly model. The standard that we have here that is used is Marmoset Toolbay. In this case, the normal maps, the curvature maps are generated here. Ambient occlusion, materials, and everything else. Let's see if Unreal Engine has something similar. In this case, Unreal Engine does have the baking part. Look. Here is bake, and we can obtain in this case the normal maps, the position maps, ambient occlusion curvature maps, material ID maps, and several if you have them. Here you do have a whole process to develop it that I recommend checking out our channel. Possibly a disadvantage, if we want to call it, that the documentation is still scarce. There are many parameters here, but in the documentation it is not yet detailed. But here on this channel we are constantly uploading videos to be able to cover these areas of bake specifically. We already have ambient occlusion, curvature normals, and material ID. You can review it too. So it does have a bake section where we can get all those details from a high poly to low poly mesh. Yes, we have. After bake, we have to do what UV mapping is. In this case, Maya and Blender have a very good section dedicated to what UV mapping is. Let's see if Unreal has good UV mapping. In this case, we're going to see this model. And yes, here it has just modeling the UVs part. Here is the UVs. It has auto UVs, UV unwrap, editing, projecting, and a powerful UVs editor. Look, that is getting better and better. Here we can visualize our element. Select in both 2D and 3D, edit. We can go around. We can perform many actions. We can divide. We can make seams, delete channels, create UV channels, many things. Select by vertices, by edges, by triangles, by islands, or by 3D elements. In short, it has several options. It is a very powerful point in the UVs part, and it is improving. This part is improving a lot. Let's move on to the next thing. After the UVs comes the moment of texturing. In the texturing part, we have the undisputed Substance Painter. Here we can see it in action. Substance Painter is the standard, let's say, for being able to texture 3D models for video games. Mari and other programs are for VFX. For the texturing part, let's see here. Unreal Engine has been improving in the latest versions and has something called the Material Layer system here. It is a very advanced system that requires developing some knowledge about materials, but once mastered, understood, very interesting things can be developed. For example, here we have layers. We have here 7 layers of material, and each one, notice, can be done. For example, this gradient that we have added here can be customized, work with what are masks, work with what are layers of material. Many things. In this case, for example, we have these edges here, we have edge here. For example, look, there it is. And for this I am using, for example, the curvature map that has been generated in Unreal Engine right here. There we have a map of the curvature, so it has all this. Here we can tile, we can change the colors, we can add roughness. For example, here it is dust. We have added some layers of dust. Let's make it noticeable a little more, for example. Let's see it up here. There is the dust. If we see it, look, there it is, a white powder anyway. There we also have the layers of dust. You can add many things. Then for the texturing part, it has the layer system material. Yes, you can, you have to study it. Let's now see the next part, which is to generate these textures. We are going to texture, but these textures must be generated. The other standard for generating textures is the Substand Designer. So we have here where you generate your normal maps, your patterns, many things it can generate. It is very powerful. Starting with version 5.4 in the Unreal Engine, let's see what surprise it has given us. And yes, it also has a texture editor called Texture Graph, and it is procedural. More nodes are being added and will be added. Here we have the nodes well classified. We also have a video where we are briefly explaining how it works. Here we are going to add more videos to this series because it is very powerful. Here we can even see a 3D view. We have a 2D view, a 3D view. Let's see again. There it is. In the 2D view, notice. And in this case we can extract the diffuse, roughness, normal, and other maps. As well as in the case of Substand Designer, we can also extract the maps of each one. And it is applied in real time to a mode. This is something very interesting that we have recently discovered, that our model can be visualized, and the application that occurs in real time. For example, here, if we want, we can use the color part. Well, there are a whole series of connections that can be made here. We have patterns, noises, various types of noise, various types of patterns. You can play here in multiple ways, and apply jitter, apply variations. It's quite a potential, so we can say that the texturing part is covered. And when we finish, we want to make the final bake of all these processes that we have here. All this pile of textures, materials, all this that is here. For example, we want to take it to what bake is. So here we have the part where it says, for example, here in the model that we are texturing, materials in the details part, materials, bake materials, click, and here you can get a set of textures. For example, here we can choose how many textures we want extract. For example, from roughness, a normal texture, they can extract a texture from. For example, ambient occlusion. In short, whatever you want, opacity. The resolution that you want to use, 2K for example. Confirm and the bake would be done. And here the set of textures would be coming out. Possibly it is not as direct as Substance Painter or Quixel Mixer, but here also on this channel we will have videos where we will show precisely how to obtain all these textures. And once the bake is done, quickly how to locate and save them now. So, in conclusion, Unreal Engine 5.4, in this version that we are seeing, can carry out all the processes of creating a 3D model. Possibly some things will be missed, but we are very attentive to this entire process. Here is our element is not yet finished. We need to texturize. We are in that process. Here we can see it. And yes, we would be getting there. Then, the texturing part is still missing here, but we are already making progress. Thank you very much and thank you for your attention. Yes, you can make a 3D model in Unreal Engine.